Great Tuesday to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining Sports4CLE. A treat for us today. One of the top draft analysts in the country, Dane Brugler from The Athletic, will join us a little bit later in the show. We'll also check in with Mac Robinson from the Hurry Up podcast. You can be sure we'll have Jadeveon Clowney updates and the like for the Browns. But we begin talking NFL draft a couple of weeks, and it will be here in Cleveland, the NFL draft. And we are pleased to be joined by one of the top draft analysts anywhere in the country, The Athletic's Dane Brugler. He has put together a draft guide known as The Beast, over 625 prospects, over 400 scouting reports. If you want access to it, subscribe to The Athletic. You can get it with a subscription. Dane, as always, appreciate the time. I know you're a Northeast Ohio guy, went to Mount Union. Let's start talking about the Browns. When you look at that 26th pick in the first round, what do you see and what do you think about the Browns pick there?
Well, first off, it's just kind of strange talking about picking in the 20s for the Browns. It's great. You know, I feel great for the fan base. Usually we're talking about top 10 picks. So definitely different this year, which makes it a lot more interesting. You know, who knows how the first 25 picks are going to play out. And so at 26, the Browns are currently going through scenarios. They're thinking, okay, yeah, these are the players that could be here for us. Do we maybe consider trading back maybe into the second round, getting another day 2 pick or maybe a future pick for next year? So a lot of different scenarios going on right now. I think one of the players that could be available there at 26 that to me makes a lot of sense and I think fits a lot of what the Browns are looking for is Greg Newsome out of Northwestern, the really talented cornerback, 6 foot, 192 pounds, really athletic player. You can tell that on tape, but he also backed it up at his pro day. 4.38 and a 40-yard dash, 40-inch vert, 10.3 broad, 6.9 3 cone. So a balanced athlete, very nimble in his pedal, moves really well from off coverage. He's a smart player. You can see the way he digests routes and gets a jump. And you wish he had more interceptions. Only 1 career pick compared to 25 passes defended. And the other worry is, he missed at least 3 games each of the last 3 years. So, durability, just need to make sure he can stay on the field. But in terms of his talent, in terms of his mental process and what you look for at the corner position, I think he'd be outstanding value there at 26.
Do you think he fits opposite Denzel Ward in what the Browns are looking for as well? Does that make sense? The type of cornerback that he can be?
I think so. A guy that can play man, can play zone. He's a young player, a true junior who's still going to be only 20 years old on draft day. I think that matters to this organization. The athletic traits are there. You're not compromising on any of the movements, the foot quickness, anything like that. And he's a tough player, competitively tough. So he will, just like Denzel Ward, not the biggest guy, but he'll get his guy on the ground as a tackler, and he's not going to allow himself just to be pushed around by, bigger receivers. So I think there are some parallels with Denzel Ward with what you're getting with Greg Newsome. Again, it's just more about, can he stay durable? Any medical concerns there? Nothing that I've heard of. It's been more nagging injuries, nothing serious. But I think, his head coach, Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern, maybe summed him up the best when he said he's got a short memory and a quick fuse. And that's exactly what you're looking for at the corner position.
Now, there are a couple of elite corners, when you talk about the top end of this draft. Who do you really like? And is there anybody other than Newsome that you could see sliding into an area that the Browns may kind of light up and maybe try to trade up a couple spots to get?
Well, I think we're going to see Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn, the 2 SEC corners, go early, somewhere in the top 15 picks. The interesting one is going to be Caleb Farley, who, in my opinion, is one of the top 10 talents in this class. 6'2", 197 pounds, and an elite athlete. We didn't get to see him test because of medical concerns. But he would have been in the 4.3s. Still relatively new to the position. He was a quarterback in high school, goes to Virginia Tech as a wide receiver, and then moves to corner in 2018, and then he opts out this past year. So we have 2 years, basically, of him at corner, but there's medical concerns, 2 back procedures, an ACL over the last 4 years. So the medicals are going to probably knock him down a little bit, and for a team like the Browns, they have to ask themselves, okay, at what point maybe is Farley worth that risk? Because the talent says he's top 10, but because of the medical concerns, he might fall to us at 26. That is a realistic scenario. So the Browns have to be ready for that. Is that someone that they're willing to roll the dice on? Or is that maybe someone who, they're saying we're better off going in a different direction? So Caleb Farley is going to be one of the really interesting players in the first round. See how far he falls and which team is willing to take that chance and scoop him up.
When we look at day 2, so round 2 and 3, who are some cornerbacks to listen out for? Because you can be sure that, it might be a multiple pick position for the Browns in this draft.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think any team is necessarily set at corner. You can always add more depth there. And this draft stretches at corner. It's not just the first round guys. There will be quality corners in that second round and even into the third round, maybe even the fourth round with the way that it stretches. So Kelvin Joseph from Kentucky is one of those guys. There are some maturity concerns there, but talent, not a concern. 5'11 and a half, 197 pounds. Really good athlete, 4.34 in the 40, and you see that on tape. The way he can shadow receivers up and down the field, different types of route runners. He looks like a wide receiver when the ball's in his area, the way he can go up and make plays. So, the drive explosion, the ball skills, the compete skills, that's what has Kelvin Joseph in that discussion as being a top 50 player. And then both of the Georgia corners are really interesting. You have Tyson Campbell on one side, 6'1", 195 pounds, a legit 4.3 athlete. And then on the other side, you have Eric Stokes, who another over 6 foot corner at 6'1.5", 195 pounds. And he's in the 4.2s in the 40-yard dash. So 2 big guys with speed that can run, where you just have a few concerns about, okay, with Tyson Campbell, can he find the football? A lot of times he's in position, but he just can't make the play. And SEC passers were not afraid to throw to his side of the field. With Eric Stokes, it's more about consistency, just understanding what routes are coming. He's late, a little bit late to the game in terms of the cornerback position. So he still is developing to do, but there's a lot of talent there. And in the second round, you're taking swings. Take swings on guys with that size, that speed, and that ability.
And before we take a quick break and move on to another position, who are some flyer guys, day 3 guys that you think, could develop into something if a team invests and develops them over a couple of years?
A few mid-round guys that I really like this year is Zech McPherson from Texas Tech, a Penn State transfer who's been really good the last 2 years. Also shows up on special teams. He's got 2 blocked punts or 2 blocked extra points. He had a blocked field goal for a touchdown this past year. So I think he's a guy that even if he doesn't contribute right away on defense, he's going to help you on special teams. I had Trey Brown from Oklahoma, maybe more of a nickel corner, 5'10", 185 pounds. Love the compete skills. He's a really good athlete as well. He'll get dinged because of his size, but he's a really good player. So McPherson, Trey Brown, 2 guys that should go 4th, 5th round and prove to be quality players in the NFL.
Dane Brugler, draft analyst from The Athletic. You can read his draft Bible. It is a beast. Subscribe to The Athletic. You get access to all of it, over 625 prospects, more than 400 scouting reports. Dane and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk edge rushers in the draft with Dane Brugler. Stay with us, Sports4CLE. We'll be right back.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. We're thrilled to have the Athletics' Dane Brugler, draft analyst, with us, talking draft coming up here in Cleveland in a couple of weeks. Dane, as always, appreciate the time. Let's turn our attention to edge rushers. Who are some of the top-end guys that kind of grab your attention? And is there like an ultra-elite kind of game changer that you see in this year's class on the edge?
You know, there really isn't. And we've been spoiled the last few years when you think about it with Myles Garrett and the Bosas. Chase Young last year, no doubt about it, top player in the draft. This year, we just don't have that guy. We might not have a pass rusher drafted top 10, which would be the first time that's happened in over a decade. So, but that doesn't mean that it's a weak class. I think once you go into the mid to late first and into the second round, there are some intriguing names there. And that's good news for the Browns, obviously picking at 26, a pretty good pass rusher who might be flawed in some ways, could fall to them. Azeez Ojulari, to me, is the top pass rusher out of Georgia. 6'2" and a quarter, 250 pounds, a really, really disruptive player because of his get off. He's a long player, even though he's only 6'2", 250. He has the arm length, 34.5-inch arms. He has the arm length of a player that's 6'5". So you have talking about a player who's only 20 years old. He's coming off a season where he led the SEC in sacks, tackles for loss, and forced fumbles. And then the tape checks out. He's a guy that the initial quickness, his ability to bend the corner, he has instincts. He's not just an athlete out there. He's a guy that understands what the offense is trying to do, and he finds the football, both versus the run and versus the pass. So I would be surprised if he fell to 26, but you never know. He could still be available. And if he is, I think that the Browns will be all over him. I think Jalen Phillips from Miami is another really interesting pass rusher in this group. When you talk about possibilities in the first round, there are some flashes where you see the Bosas because he understands what he's doing with his hands. He can beat you in different ways: power, quickness. He's not just a guy that's relying on his athleticism out there. He understands what it means to have a pass rush plan and to sync moves together, just the dance of pass rush. And so Jalen Phillips is really interesting. He's got a medical history, and so that's kind of similar to the Caleb Farley conversation. You have to be confident in his ability to stay on the field. That's something that will ultimately determine where he is drafted. And then one more player I wanted to mention, who's one of the more intriguing guys in this class, is Jason Oweh out of Penn State, who is the freakiest of the freaks when you just talk about a natural ability. 6'5", 260 pounds, ran a 4.37, which, that's better than Greg Newsome, the corner from Northwestern. That's better than most wide receivers are running out there. And he did it at 260 pounds. He's a former basketball player, still discovering, what it takes to be a high-level pass rusher. 0 sacks last year for Penn State in 7 games. And that's the number that's going to keep coming up with Jason Oweh. But when you watch the tape, he was consistently disruptive. He was in the backfield affecting what the quarterback was doing. And ultimately, that's what you want. I know pass rushers are judged by sacks, but for disruption, that's production. I want guys that affect what the quarterback is doing. And Jason Oweh can do that. And you feel like he's not even close to, ultimately what he's going to be, just scratching the surface. So Oweh in the late first round is very, very intriguing.
Let's turn our attention again to kind of that day 2, so rounds 2 and 3, some guys that you think might be intriguing that could develop.
Yeah, well, I think one guy that really stands out for Cleveland in that late second would be Peyton Turner out of Houston. 6'5.5", 270 pounds, a really long player, 35-inch arms, and one of the best effort players in this draft. The motor, it just doesn't quit, and he's making plays on the opposite side of the field that he has no business making, but he does because the competitive toughness that he has, the motor, it's relentless. He does not turn it off. So I think that length that he plays with, that quickness, he's a little high cut. He's still understanding what it takes to patch moves together and just the different things, different ways to beat blockers. He needs coached up. But when you talk about a guy that's that size, has that length, has that motor, a good athlete, those type of guys you bet on, especially when you get to the second round. So I think Peyton Turner will be a guy that the Browns are certainly interested in once you get outside the first round.
Let's look into the middle rounds. Are there guys that you kind of look at and say, intriguing. Could really develop into something.
Yeah, there's always a few. Maybe there's something. Maybe they're not the best athlete. They didn't test the best. Maybe they're a little undersized, and so they get dinged and they fall a little bit. But they're still really good players. One that stands out for me is Chansey Goldston out of Iowa, 6'4.5", 270 pounds. And, he's not the flashiest player. He ran a 4.8 in the 40-yard dash. His 3-cone, 7.47, not great. But when you watch the film, you see a guy that can play inside, can play outside, really instinctive. He does not make many mental mistakes out there. He understands what the offense is trying to do, and he puts himself in position to make those plays. He's very strong. He's got a swap move, push-pull. He can create his own rush lanes. He's got lateral quickness, so he can sidestep blockers. He's just one of those guys that does not quit working to the football. So high intangible, team captain. There's a lot going for him that once you get outside, the first 2 days, somewhere early day 3, I'd be looking at Chansey Goldston as a possible target. Another one, a guy that's a little undersized, Quincy Roche from Miami. But he's just a guy, he's a make-it player because he knows what it takes to rush the passer, to find the quarterback, and to string runs outside and make plays. So he might be a little deficient in some areas, but he's a make-it player who I think is going to play in the league for a while. And he's probably going to be somewhere in that 4th round.
Dane Brugler, draft analyst, draft expert from The Athletic. Want to remind you, if you like what you're hearing from Dane, subscribe to The Athletic. He has put together the Draft Bible. It is a beast. Over 625 prospects, over 400 scouting reports. When you subscribe to The Athletic, you get access to his draft guide for 2021, and there is a ton of information in it. Again, Dane Brugler from The Athletic. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Dane's going to talk about some linebackers that could be intriguing for the Browns. Sports for CLE will continue. We continue talking draft here.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Better days are ahead. Be ready with the training you'll need to get a great job. If you or your family has experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Whether you want to improve your skills, get certified, or train for a new career, go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So what are you waiting for? Register now for online and on-campus summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to Sports for CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue talking NFL draft with The Athletic's Dane Brugler, draft expert, and he has done a ton of scouting reports, has broken down over 625 prospects. Dane, let's turn our attention to the linebacking core. Early in the process, there was a lot of talk that the Browns were interested in a guy named Zaven Collins from Tulsa. What do you see from him? Do you think he necessarily fits? Is he an edge rusher? Is he a linebacker? Can he do both?
Yeah, he probably could. He's really unique. 6'5", 260 pounds. You don't see many linebackers that size move like he does. And he can just win in so many different ways. He could rush a passer. He can play the run. He can play in coverage. And you watch that Tulsa defense on tape, and continually, it's just number 23 making plays. It's just really, really interesting. He led the team in tackles for loss, led the team in interceptions, led the team in sacks. He returned 2 of those interceptions. He had 4 on the season, returned 2 of them for touchdowns. So this is a guy that just makes plays. Former quarterback in high school. He was also his high school valedictorian. So there's a lot he has going for him just as a raw talent. You just have to figure out, where do you play him? What's his best? Is he a natural Sam? Can he play, is he scheme diverse, 3-4, 4-3? Every team's going to look at him a little bit differently with what he brings, because he's so unique, just with the skill set that he offers. And so he might not be ideal for everybody, but I think that there's too much talent there. You're going to find a way to use him on your football team.
When you look at the linebacker position, who are some other names? Collins is one Browns fans are familiar with, because a lot of people have him being somebody the Browns would take if he was there at 26. Who are some other linebackers that jump off the tape and should be listened out for?
The one that's really interesting to me for the Browns at 26 is if Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame, if he were to fall to 26, it would be a really interesting fit, because he's not your traditional stack linebacker. He is, he played that rover position for the Irish, where he's lined up over the slot. He's an explosive blitzer. He could just do a little bit of everything. We saw a guy like Isaiah Simmons go in the top 10 last year, being that versatile presence at linebacker. And Owusu-Koramoah is kind of similar in that respect, where you can throw on the tape and see him cover man-to-man a slot receiver down the field. You can watch him be a blitzer. It might be what he does best. He's so explosive, blowing up plays in the backfield. He'll string out runs. He can just do so much for you. And so I think that versatility is really, really intriguing. If he were to be there at 26, he would certainly make the Browns think about that. Jamin Davis out of Kentucky, he's more of a traditional linebacker, 6'3.5", 235, a really explosive athlete. He ran in the 4.4s and the 40-yard dash, and you see that speed on film. He covers so much ground. He's really natural in his zone drops, so he can find the football. He had 3 interceptions this past year. 1 he returned for a touchdown against Tennessee. There's just a lot of ability there, and he's a 1-year starter. So you feel like he's still getting better and growing. So love his GPS for the football, the way he trusts his eyes and goes and makes plays. It responds well to play development. So Jamin Davis at 26 is certainly a possibility.
It certainly seems like he's a guy that seems to be moving up to it. You didn't hear a lot about him until after his pro day, and then you started to hear him as a potential first rounder. Is that accurate?
Well, like I said, he was a 1-year starter. So, yeah, I think people were a little late to discover just how good he is. And, back in February, March, we were talking about him as a top 50 player. And then the more you just, think about it and say, okay, well, let's see, he averaged 10.2 tackles per game last year. 3 interceptions led the team. He also had a blocked field goal. The athleticism is, it jumps out at you for a guy that's 6'3.5", 235 pounds. So, you start bumping him up a little bit and say, well, why shouldn't he be a first-round pick? So, he could go anywhere between picks 20 and 40, and I would not be surprised. I think that, there are a lot of teams, it's going to be easy to talk yourself into Jamin Davis.
Who are some guys that are intriguing middle and late rounds that you like from the linebacker position?
Well, let's go down to Columbus. They've got a few of them. Baron Browning from Ohio State, 6'2 3/4", 245 pounds. We knew he was a freak coming out of Fort Worth before he arrived at Ohio State, and he did not disappoint at the pro day. 4.55 in the 40-yard dash, 40-inch vert, 6.78 3-cone, just outstanding numbers. And you watch him at Ohio State playing the Sam, playing the Mike, doing different things. He could play in coverage. You throw on the Penn State tape, he's covering Pat Freiermuth and doing a really nice job. I think some teams are even looking at him as a designated pass rusher. You just do so much with a talent like that. I don't know that, mentally, in terms of his mental development, he's right where you want just yet in terms of his awareness and his ability to key and diagnose and anticipate what is coming. but you feel like he has the athleticism where he can compensate for that as he continues to develop with what he sees. And then Pete Werner as well from Ohio State, 6'3", 238. He's kind of a do-it-all guy. You want him dropping in coverage, he can do that. He's just got a really good radar for the football, a good athlete. He has range in coverage. He's one of those guys you don't need to take him off the field. He's a 4-down player. Keep him on the field for special teams. There's no reason why he can't do that. He resets really quickly, doesn't get fooled very often. He can blitz as well. So, he's just the guy you want to coach. And I think, you look down there at Jacksonville, Urban Meyer is going to be hoping that maybe a Pete Werner or Baron Browning or Jonathan Cooper, Josh Myers, all those former Buckeyes are going to fall to the Jaguars in the second, third, fourth rounds. But that won't be the only team looking at these backers. The Browns will certainly be in that conversation as well.
When you look at some guys that are later round picks, who are some guys you like as potential sleepers that could surprise some people?
Well, the Browns found good value out of Michigan last year at the receiver position, and they could do it again this year, but at linebacker with Cameron McGrone, who is a little undersized, 6'1", 235. He took over for Devin Bush 2 years ago after Devin Bush was a first-round pick, filled his shoes, kind of impressed. I wasn't expecting big things, Devin Bush, big shoes to fill, but McGrone did a nice job. Unfortunately, this past season as a junior in 2020 was ended prematurely with an ACL injury. And that's why we're talking about Cameron McGrone potentially being a sleeper, a guy that you can get a discount on and later in the draft, 5th, 6th round, but speedy linebacker, flies around and can make plays. And so if they're looking for value outside the top 4 rounds, Cameron McGrone, 5th, 6th round, he could end up absolutely outplaying where he's drafted.
Dane Brugler, draft expert from The Athletic. If you like what you hear, you're going to like even more what you read. Subscribe to The Athletic. You get access to Dane Brugler's 2021 draft guide. It's a beast. Over 625 prospects, over 400 scouting reports. Dane has put it together, has put eyes on these guys, has watched a ton of tape. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe to The Athletic. You'll even like what you read more. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. One more segment with Dane Brugler of The Athletic. We're going to talk wide receivers on the other side of the break. You're watching Sports for CLE. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports for CLE continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue to talk draft with draft expert Dane Brugler from The Athletic. Dane, appreciate all the time. The Browns have not had a lot of success drafting wide receivers. So this is an area where they very well may decide to go. You've got Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, both big contracts, both a little bit more veteran players. Who are some guys that the Browns could be looking at as far as this year's draft goes?
Well, I don't know that we necessarily expect them to go receiver early in the first round, but if they were to surprise and go that direction, Elijah Moore from Ole Miss, I think would certainly be on their radar, be on their short list of possibilities. 5'9.5", 180 pounds, a really electric athlete. For a lot of those same reasons that teams loved Jalen Waddle in the top 10, there's a lot of parallels with Elijah Moore, with what he offers. Speed, he's a 4.3 athlete. He can create after the catch. He led the FBS in catches per game last year with 10.8. They force-fed him the football, and Elijah Moore responded in a big way. So a little smaller of a target, not as polished as an intermediary part of the field. But he's a guy that can win deep. He can win underneath. He can create with the ball in his hands. So Elijah Moore would certainly be in that conversation. I think more likely, maybe we could see them go wide receiver day 2, day 3. And similar to corner, it's a position that stretches a little bit. And so they don't necessarily have to go early. They can wait till day 2 and still find a really quality receiver. One of my favorites in the middle of day 2, that late second round, early third round, De'Ami Brown, North Carolina, 6'5", 190 pounds. You love the speed, 4.44. He is probably the most skilled double move receiver in this draft. And that's a skill, the ability to settle your feet, use slight body movement, fool defensive backs. He's very, very good at that. And he wins consistently deep, tracks the ball well. And needs to eliminate some of the easy drops, but he's a good tracker of the football, and he can win downfield. So I think that's certainly going to be someone the Browns have their eye on. Another player in that mid day 2 range, Amari Rogers from Clemson, who is a fun player because you feel the play strength. When you watch him, it feels like there's a rumble pack attached to the clicker. 5'9.5", 212. Love the play strength, love the compete skills. He finds ways to get open, and then he creates after the catch. So that's exactly what you're looking for with him. There's some Jarvis Landry to his game, best in the slot, just a really dependable player. And when you're talking, outside the first 2 rounds, I think that's outstanding value for a talent like that.
When you look a little bit deeper into the draft, who are some guys you think could be intriguing for the Browns a little bit later after that day 2, so day 3, middle rounds?
There's quite a few guys, and it could be in a situation where like a Peoples-Jones last year, who I don't know that the Browns necessarily expected to get him where they did, but he fell a little bit, and so this could be a similar situation because this is such a deep wide receiver group that there's only so many landing spots for these receivers, and that's going to push some good receivers down the board a little bit. So 4th, 5th, 6th round. If you can get a Simi Fehoko out of Stanford, 6'4", 220 pounds, an outstanding athlete for that size, 4.4 speed, a lot of similarities to the Peoples-Jones with just that big body, the way he can shield defenders at the catch point, can win downfield. He was a big play threat this past year for Stanford with his ability to make plays down the field, to create after the catch with that athleticism. Also had a blocked field goal, so he can help out on special teams. And that's probably what he's going to be best. We saw Peoples-Jones, be a returner this past year for the Browns. Fehoko, not a returner, but he's going to help you out on special teams coverages, making plays, making tackles. So that's something that's a strong selling point for him. And then, I grew up in Northeast Ohio, watching the Browns when they came back in '99. Loved watching Dennis Northcutt. Cade Johnson out of South Dakota State reminds me a lot of Dennis Northcutt. 5'10.5", 184 pounds, not a big guy, but he understands how to manipulate space, especially from that slot position. A very aggressive route runner. He's a hands catcher, a natural competitor. He accelerates really well. He just eats up grass in a hurry, can break off his routes. So, he plays with polish. He can win in different ways across the formation, end arounds, jet sweeps, simple slants, things like that. So, he's a guy that doesn't have ideal tape versus top competition, coming from the FCS level. But you throw on the 2019 opener against Minnesota, a Big Ten team, and he had no problem getting open against them. So Cade Johnson, one of those intriguing slot receivers to watch, 4th, 5th round, could be good value there for the Browns.
Last thing I'll ask you before I let you go, and again, I appreciate all the time, Dane Brugler, draft analyst, The Athletic. Subscribe to get his draft Bible. It is a beast, and it's got a lot of prospects, a lot of scouting reports. Say the Browns draft a developmental quarterback. Obviously, Baker Mayfield's their quarterback. They don't have a really young guy that is a developmental guy. Who are some names just to listen out for later in this draft that you think could develop into pretty decent NFL quarterbacks?
Well, to me, after you get past those top 5 guys, we expect 5 quarterbacks to go top 10. I think after those top 5, the quarterback that stands out the most to me as being a developmental quarterback, you could foresee him starting games down the road, is Davis Mills out of Stanford, former 5-star recruit. He looks the part, 6'4", 220, only 11 starts. And so that's the sample size is not what you want. The left knee needs to check out. That's part of the reason why he only started 11 games, but he's a loose passer. He might be the best middle of the field passer in this draft. A really big fan of the way he can use his eyes, reset and make plays down the field. So Davis Mills could be one of those guys. Kyle Trask to me is more of a backup. He's that Mason Rudolph style passer. Kellen Mond is really inconsistent. You watch the Florida tape and you say, okay, this guy could be something. And then you watch the LSU tape and you're, maybe not. You just don't know what you're getting snap to snap with Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M. But if he falls in the right situation, he gets coached up, maybe he's a guy that can turn the corner. So, I think a team somewhere, maybe even the second round, might take a chance on Kellen Mond. If we're talking late rounds, Ian Book out of Notre Dame could be that guy, really athletic, smart, high intangibles. If you're going to throw a dart at a quarterback in the 6th, 7th round, Ian Book would make sense.
Dane Brugler, as always, thanks so much. You gave us a ton of time and a ton of information. Appreciate it. The draft analyst from The Athletic, Dane Brugler, thanks so much again. Subscribe to The Athletic. You get access to his draft guide from 2021, over 625 prospects, over 400 scouting reports. You heard all the information he gave us. That's just scratching the surface of what is in that draft guide. If you subscribe to The Athletic, you get access to it. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Mac Robinson from the Hurry Up podcast. You know we're going to have a Jadeveon Clowney update. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Better days are ahead. Be ready with the training you'll need to get a great job. If you or your family has experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Whether you want to improve your skills, get certified, or train for a new career, go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So what are you waiting for? Register now for online and on-campus summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Dave Bacon. So the update on Jadeveon Clowney, scheduled to arrive in Cleveland later today. The thought is he will take a physical with the Browns and then potentially, if they can agree to terms, become a Cleveland Brown. National media folks who have been skeptical of the Browns think if they get Jadeveon Clowney, there's some big things ahead for the Browns.
Guys, y'all know how I've been with Baker Mayfield. The issue is if he doesn't take a step back, Cleveland is going to be better than they were last year.
Yeah.
And Stefanski did a phenomenal job. Now, there's film now on the Cleveland Browns and how they like to play football. So teams adjust to that. That's the way the NFL goes. But if Baker Mayfield can continue to trend and they sign Jadeveon Clowney, which I want to gush over, because sometimes people get it twisted, because Jadeveon doesn't have these crazy wild sack numbers. And look, rightfully so. That comes with being the #1 overall pick, the speed, the ability, all of these things you look at. But you put him across from Myles Garrett, and you have this defensive line and a healthy back end, like Cleveland was ravaged with injury as well from a defensive standpoint with young guys, Grant Delpit and those guys on the back end. Ward was not there all season long. This can be a great team, not a good team. This can be a great team. It's about their quarterback continuing to progress, and defensively, if they stay healthy and they sign Jadeveon Clowney, between him and this could be the dark horse Super Bowl team. It's so crazy that I'm saying that about the Cleveland Browns, but it's legit based on how we saw them play last year.
So there you go. National media buying into the potential of the Browns being a Super Bowl team. Let's welcome in Mac Robinson from the Hurry Up podcast. Mac, as always, appreciate the time. What do you think? Are you lining up among the many to say, yeah, this is a dark horse Super Bowl team?
You know, I'll go one step further, to be honest. I think that dark horse is a little bit of an overused term, I feel like, because dark horse insinuates that they're not really expected to be in that. I would say this, the Cleveland Browns moniker, I think that's where the dark horse comes in. If you are looking at this as just no names at all, just a team that pushed the AFC champion Kansas City Chiefs to the brink of elimination in the divisional round, and they improved their defense vastly, still have a draft to come up. And on top of that, the offense is still having another year of continuity. I think that this is one of the top teams in the AFC, period. I'll put them in the top 3, to be quite honest. So I think that dark horse, I wouldn't quite go that far. I would say even farther than that. I think that they're one of the top 3 teams in the AFC.
When you look at what Clowney brings, and we saw everybody that is against the Browns signing him points to no sacks, only had 3 sacks the year before that. You saw in that graphic the pressure rate. The other thing that is you can't deny is he's really good against the run. And, oh, by the way, he gives Myles Garrett a pretty substantial running mate. So I think there's a cumulative effect if his medicals check out. That's what they're looking into now. So that it's progressed to the point where they want to get a look at the knee and make sure he's healthy.
Yeah, and that's going to be the major wild card when it comes to this. As long as he's healthy, all of a sudden, I think that the Browns are going to be absolutely all in, as they've shown the last 2 years. But I think that the big part with Clowney is that, you know, everywhere he's gone, to an extent, he's had to be the guy. In Houston, he was a #1 overall pick. He had those expectations on him. Then getting traded to Seattle, obviously the high expectations of being the top pass rusher there. And even going to Tennessee, where he was paid well enough to where you were expecting that sack production. You were expecting those numbers to be there. In Cleveland, he doesn't have to be the guy for the first time in his career. So you see him having Myles Garrett opposite of him. You have Takk McKinley, another first-round pick, behind him to, you know, alleviate him a little bit. So I feel like with Jadeveon Clowney, this is the only spot that he can go to where he doesn't have to be the main guy and have those high expectations, you know, set upon him going into his landing spot.
And the other side of it from Jadeveon Clowney's perspective is Browns probably want him on a 1-year deal, make sure he's healthy, see where it goes. He gets to not be locked in long term where he can potentially make some money when the salary cap goes back up. So it's a win-win, and the thought would be Browns are going to be a pretty good team. They already have a lot of talent on that line. It's a place for him where he can show and try to earn a bigger contract coming up.
Exactly. And even still, like, he hasn't really even shown in the postseason. He hasn't really had an opportunity to show out in the postseason for himself. Obviously, he had a couple of runs there with Houston, and he had the one season with Seattle. So for him, getting that opportunity, especially to, stand out. And like you said, opposite of Myles Garrett, he's going to have more success. And on top of that, too, I feel like Joe Woods is going to be utilizing him in a multitude of ways, not only on the outside, obviously stopping the run where he's been the last couple of seasons, but on top of that, I also could see them kicking him inside, in those NASCAR packages, as everybody likes to call them, where, you add more speed rushers. He can use some of that size that he has and some of that quickness against the interior defense or the interior offensive linemen. And he can go ahead and utilize that along with Sheldon Richardson, along with Malik Jackson and those guys. So I feel like Joe Woods is going to be able to implement him in the right ways along this defense to really show off his versatility and show that he's still the talented player that a lot of people have kind of overlooked the last couple of seasons, despite the sack production.
Now, Mac, you're a wrestling fan, correct?
Yeah, I dabble with the WWE stuff.
All right, take a listen. Parminative The Miz talking about the Browns. So this one's for you, Mac. Tell me what you think.
The Browns are going to the Super Bowl. They have done everything they needed to do in free agency. We haven't even gotten to the draft yet, and they basically have appointed all of their needs. So now all they're doing is getting everything kind of backups, people that will be playing in a couple years. I think, anytime you can put more people on the O-line, sure, address a couple needs in the defensive area, and we're good to go. Like, we're ready to go. Let's go. I cannot wait for this season. I think that Kevin Stefanski has instilled a winning mentality into the Browns, and now people don't laugh at me when I say they're going to the Super Bowl. People say, you know what? You might be right. We're getting Odell Beckham back. And, think about that for just a second. You got Odell, you got Jarvis, you got Kareem Hunt, you got Nick Chubb. You have all Austin Hooper. What else do you need on offense to be set on fire? You don't. So you address the defense. Oh, wait, we have Myles Garrett, arguably the best defensive player in all the NFL. Oh, wait a second. Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding me?
Parminative The Miz. You can't do much better than a WWE guy being your team's hype man. He's hired.
Oh yeah. There's no better talker than The Miz by far, and he's absolutely spot on. Getting all of the free agency needs covered, pretty much to the point where, you get to the draft, you can do whatever the hell you want. You can pick anybody up that you need at the positions that are available. Obviously, you have some guys that are contracts, they're coming up in the next couple of years, so you can address some of those future needs. Obviously, that's what you're aiming to do in the draft, but with the way that they've handled free agency, you can actually go about and go ahead and do it and not necessarily have to worry about these guys performing on day one, which really opens up the treasure chest that you have going forward for these guys, especially, Andrew Berry now in his second year, his second draft with the team. I'm super excited to see what he's able to do. And, he's spot on. Like I said, I think the Browns are Super Bowl contenders for sure. So with what they've been able to do, I love what they've done. And The Miz is spot on. The Miz is spot on. I can't hate on it.
Well, the other thing is it's kind of interesting because the national media that was skeptical about how the Browns were going to be seems to be coming around. The other thing is as you touched on, it's a huge advantage. They can literally pick the guys they think are the best available players in the draft. And that's what good franchises do. You aren't forced to pick for need. What a concept. Build through the draft. That's how you build through the draft.
Right. And especially, too, you see teams like Green Bay in the past where, all of these rosters have pretty much been built through the draft and they go ahead and develop their own players. Free agency, a lot of times, is where you have course corrections, where you've had issues in the past and you go ahead and you try to address some of those issues. Whereas the Browns now at this point, they've built their team. They're pretty much set. So all of a sudden now you see the beginning of the development. You see all of those young players that are going to be filling in those needs for veterans who might leave to go elsewhere. And you have those draft picks step up and take those places. This is the beginning of the developmental stage for this team. And I know it's an amazing concept to not need a rookie to start and perform right away, but the Browns are in that position where now we're going ahead, we're drafting for players year 2, year 3, rather than day 1.
Mac Robinson and I from the Hurry Up Podcast going to take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, we're going to talk, what are the odds of Baker Mayfield winning the MVP? They are out. We'll also hear about a cereal coming out for one of the Browns players. We'll ask you for a name as well. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
Life is starting to get back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with full tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tric-edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for summer classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Sports4CLE continues. We continue to talk Browns football with Mac Robinson from the Hurry Up Podcast. All right, Mac, quick question. Who is a guy that you want the Browns to get in this draft? Can be anywhere in the draft.
I would say this. I'll give you 2 names. So one that I would love in the first round is going to be Greg Newsome, the cornerback out of Northwestern. Love his size. Love what he's able to do. I think he'd be a perfect fit opposite of Denzel Ward. And especially the other player that I'll give you is wide receiver Nico Collins. And I understand it's going to be tough for some Buckeye fans to take back-to-back Michigan receivers. But I think that Nico Collins is another guy who I think could fit in with this wide receiver core. I think that he'd be able to add in a good amount of depth. And I think that he'd be somebody who could also develop better at the next level than he was at Michigan. So I think that both Nico Collins and Greg Newsome, I would love to have in orange and brown.
Well, here's what I would tell Buckeye fans that are hesitant about Michigan fans. Everybody deserves to get a chance to graduate from the JV to the varsity. So until Michigan can start beating Ohio State, they're kind of the JV. Sorry, Michigan fans, it's just the way it is at this point. I kind of agree with you. I like Newsome. The guy that I am intrigued about that I hope slides and the Browns can go up and get is J.C. Horn. My guess is he's not going to slide enough. But I think his athleticism is off the charts, and I think that's a lockdown corner waiting to happen in the NFL.
Yeah, no, J.C. Horn is probably my favorite cornerback this year. I don't think he'll fall, but I will say this. If he gets anywhere near like 18 to 19, I'd love to jump up and, be able to snag him because I think he can be a lockdown corner in the NFL. And I think that, where a lot of Browns fans were hoping to, be able to trade for a Marshawn Lattimore, that doesn't necessarily make sense just because the contracts between him and Denzel Ward, the extensions are matching up pretty much. So if you look at a J.C. Horn, I think that makes a lot more sense because of how much he would be making on that rookie deal compared to what you're paying Ward. They balance each other out, and you have a pair of lockdown corners on the outside. I would love J.C. Horn in Cleveland.
All right, let's shift our attention. MVP odds came out from betonline.com and betonline.ag. Baker Mayfield 33-1 was 13th for MVP as far as the honors go. And that sounds okay, but you look and he's around the same area as Carson Wentz and guys like that. So I think that might be even a little bit low. Joe Burrow and Tannehill, two more that he was in that area for. What do you think about the potential there with Baker Mayfield if he takes another step and potentially moving into that thought process where he could be an NFL MVP?
I would say this when it comes to Baker. So his MVP odds, the reason why I think that, he might not necessarily get as much love as some others is because of the fact that, and it's going to sound crazy again for Browns fans, but, the rest of his team is so good, especially you're looking at the defense, the weapons that he has, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt in the backfield. The MVP, they're going to be going ahead and looking at, how much has he done for the offense? Do I think that Baker Mayfield is pretty much the key to this offense? Yes, I do. But at the same point, I think that the run game is going to be featured enough. Obviously they're going to be throwing the ball, but, they're going to be relying more on that run game, I feel. So I think that I kind of understand where they're coming from with that. The Joe Burrow stuff, I think, is going to be interesting. I don't necessarily know if I would put him up quite that high, especially coming off a torn ACL. But at the same time, I kind of understand it because, again, you're looking at Cincinnati. That defense, I think, is going to be allowing a ton of points. I think that if they're going to be winning, I think that they're going to have to rely on Joe Burrow. So I kind of understand it from that perspective. So I think that Baker, while I think his play will warrant MVP consideration, I also think that his supporting cast will also be a little bit of a deterrent for some voters in that case.
Fair enough. One more topic to talk about. This one's a little fun. So okay. Nick Chubb will have a cereal that will be available coming out at Heinen's. They currently have it called as Chubb Crunch. Now, all the proceeds will benefit SIDS, Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. So it's for a great cause. We got to help them out a little bit. Chubb Crunch, we can come up with something a little bit better. So we encourage everybody watching, come up with the new cereal for Nick Chubb. Let's come up with a name, an alternative to Chubb Crunch. You have anything that pops in your mind? Or?
I mean, the only ones I can think of are possibly Chubbios. I don't know if that gets into some infringement, but either that or, Captain Chubb. I don't know. Chubb Crunch, it's interesting, but it's not as catchy. I don't know. It's just not, it doesn't roll off the tongue like you'd kind of want for your cereal. It doesn't sound like a balanced party or a part of your balanced breakfast.
Well, we could go 24 gold, 24 vitamins and minerals. You could play off his number. Lucky Chubbs, there's another one that I have, They eat up blocking, they eat up blockers or they eat up defenders, those kind of things. We have a lot of slogans and a lot of potential. So we'll throw it out to everybody watching. Let's help them come up with an alternative name for Chubb Crunch, the cereal that will be sold again at local Heinen stores, all for a good cause. Benefits SIDS, Sudden Infant Death Syndrome. Mac Robinson, Hurry Up Podcast, as always. Appreciate the time and the insight. Great stuff, as always, Mac. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, Mac Robinson from the Hurry Up Podcast. That'll do it for us on this edition of Sports for CLE. Indians getting ready, trying to rebound from that ninth inning defeat against the White Sox. They will play at 8:15 tonight in Chicago. Coming up tomorrow, scheduled guest Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. Plenty of talk about Jadeveon Clowney. Jake has already done his work breaking him down on tape. We'll get his thoughts. And also Mark Munch Bishop scheduled to join us. We'll talk Browns and Indians with Mark Munch Bishop. That is tomorrow right here, Sports for CLE. Have a great night, everybody, and we will see you again tomorrow at 4 o'clock.